Today I wanted to talk a little bit about safety. It's a conversation that I see happening a lot in the comments area of a lot of YouTube channels. We receive a lot of emails and contact forms on the subject, so I thought maybe we could start a discussion on this topic. Now, I know we all have different perspectives, so I thought maybe I could share my perspective, and some of the folks out there maybe who are newer to living off-grid or using power tools or things like that maybe could benefit. Not saying that I'm right, but I want to share what I would call a common sense perspective to safety. We just invested in about $300 worth of chainsaw operator safety gear, and I think some people might get the wrong message from this video. They might be thinking, well, finally Jesse got his head on straight, or finally somebody got through to him and convinced him it was time to upgrade his safety equipment. And that's just not true. The decision to purchase this safety apparel was my own, and it has to do with some projects that we have coming up, and I would feel a lot more comfortable with this safety gear operating chainsaws. So maybe this video we can talk a little bit first about what safety is, and then I would like to share some of my own perspectives on why people get injured operating chainsaws, and then we could talk just briefly about some of the things maybe people could do themselves to stay safe. Before I share my personal idea on what safety is, I do want to communicate that I've put quite a bit of thought into trying to distill this video. So I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers, and I'm not trying to create any enemies. But I do care a lot about how people perceive the channel, and I want people to look at us and think that these are maybe some people that we could learn a little something from. We certainly are learning a lot ourselves. We do not consider ourselves experts, but at the same time we are deep thinkers and critical thinkers, and we do want to communicate that this is not just a frivolous or maybe rebuttal type video. So I've been pondering this topic of safety, and I think, in my opinion, safety comes down to one thing, and that is whatever makes you feel safe. I know that there are a lot of safety measures in this world, the world we live in, but the reality is we all pick and choose which ones we use. And why that is, I can't explain, but what makes one person feel safe doesn't bother another person. For example, I'm sure you drive if you're watching this video, your car probably says to check the tire pressures every single month, and to rotate your tires every 3,000 miles, and to change the oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, and change all the fluids every 30,000 miles, and do all this stuff. But the reality is we don't do all those things. Why? Well, because we feel safe, most of us. Until we have some sort of an issue, we feel fine. To kind of further that, I have friends who will do things that I would never do, but they feel safe doing it. And I can't really argue with them because they are safe. But those are things that make me feel uncomfortable. So I can kind of understand when people watch our videos and they see me or Alyssa maybe not wearing the safety equipment they would wear if they were doing a particular task. It makes them uncomfortable. But I can assure you that in nearly every situation, with very few exceptions, are we ever going to put anything on YouTube and not at least think about what we're doing and the example that we're setting for other people? So the message that I want to send with this particular segment is safety is what makes you feel safe. So if you feel like you need more protective gear and more equipment, that's great, and you should definitely use that. You should never ever work without whatever makes you feel comfortable. And if someone tries to pressure you to do otherwise, do not take their advice. You need to feel safe. Otherwise, you're going to be distracted in your mind. So that's what I want to share, is that to me, safety is what makes you feel safe. And everybody has a different level of safety. However, I'm not going to argue the benefit of safety protective gear. But I do want to make a point that there are times when protective gear can actually become in and of itself a safety hazard. In fact, a lot of people I know who do timber felling or logging as professionals do not wear chaps. You might think that's nuts. Who would do that? A lot of those folks feel that they represent a safety hazard to themselves. That's just their personal opinion, and that's how they feel safe. I know there are other YouTube channels and they'll sing the praises of safety gear. But you need to understand something. Even the label on these chaps says that even wearing these chaps, you could become severely injured. What does that mean? That means that in everything we do, there is risk. So if you don't like risk, don't get out of bed, okay? So we understand that driving a car has risks, but maybe you get really comfortable driving a car and you forget that you're driving a 4,000 to 7,000 pound bullet down the highway at 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. I don't know how fast you drive. That's a massive risk, but you're comfortable with it, so you don't even think about it, right? Other people even drive faster than that. That makes them comfortable. They feel safe. So we need to accept that there is risk in everything. If you are not comfortable with the idea of getting cut by a chainsaw, then do not operate a chainsaw. It's that simple. If you cannot accept that there is risk in doing so, that there's risk in falling trees, there's risk in moving lumber, there's risk in operating other tools, then do not operate those tools. Find someone else to do it for you. I'd like to touch briefly a little bit on why I feel like people get injured running tools overall, and more specifically chainsaws. And it comes down to two very simple principles that can be applied to just about everything. First, you need to respect yourself. If you don't respect yourself, you'll always put yourself in situations that are going to get you and maybe other people hurt. What does that mean? That means know your limits. If you don't feel comfortable, and I don't mean comfortable like it doesn't bother you, I mean confident. I mean you are present and focused when you're operating a tool, then do not operate that tool for your own safety and the safety of other people. To further that point, when I purchased this safety equipment, the gentleman I purchased it from commented that it is way too often that he gives for free a chainsaw operator safety video to people who come in to buy chainsaws. And I asked him why he does that. He said, honestly, I really wish I couldn't sell them a chainsaw. I just know they're gonna hurt themselves. That's an example of a person who does not know their limits and does not respect themselves. Don't be that person, because I don't care what you're operating, that is going to get you hurt. And the second thing is know the limits of your tools. I believe the number one reason homeowners specifically get injured doing work with chainsaws is they have just one tool. And we get away with it. We push our luck a little bit. But we know we probably should be using a different tool, but we don't have any other tools, and getting a new one could be $400 to $1,400. So we try to make this tool do what this tool is designed to do. When watching a lot of the chainsaw safety videos that I was able to find on YouTube, I noticed a recurring theme, and that was the operator who was demonstrating the safety hazard was usually working at the limit or beyond the limit of the tool. That's going to get you hurt very frequently. My recommendation is to have a tool that fits the job. If you don't, then don't do the job. Or find a tool, maybe borrow one, barter for one, buy one, whatever the circumstance might be. Find a tool that is right for the job. When I run the Alaskan Chainsaw Mill 36-inch bar, I do not have to work this saw very hard. It's just chugging away when we're milling. That's important because if I had to work the saw really, really hard, that's going to put both myself and the tool at risk. You risk a malfunction, a broken chain, some other issue. So, my point is, use the appropriate tool for the job. If I were to use this saw for the same job, very likely would have a high potential of risk, injury, because this tool is not designed to do what this tool is designed to do. So, my recommendation, no matter what tool you're operating, know the limits of the tool and work within those limits. Sure, it's fun to watch YouTube and watch people do crazy stuff with tools that aren't designed to work that way, but when it comes to safety, don't just understand what the tool is designed for. There's no way to communicate to somebody how to feel a tool. But if you can't feel a tool, man, I don't even know if I'd recommend you use it, because if you can't understand what it's doing, then you're hugely at risk. The reality is this: I always say, you have to run the tool, because if you don't, the tool is going to run you. What that means is understanding the sounds, how it feels, how it looks. You're not just operating the tool, it's an extension of your body. Just like I can feel that my legs are moving. I'm not just moving my legs, I can feel them. The same thing is true of one of these tools. It's not just an accessory, but it's an extension of your body, so you need to feel its rhythm and be conscious of what it's doing. It's telling you, is it working too hard? Is it broken, malfunctioning, not tuned properly, etc. So again, work within the limits of the tool. So briefly, the chainsaw equipment that we purchased is a couple of things. One, we picked up a set of Stihl ProMark chaps. It's important that you understand the difference. Not all chaps are created equally. So this pair is a 9-ply. There are other chap qualities out there. The most common are 6-ply. Well, I guess to further that argument of safety, if you're going to have 6, why not have 9? Well, they do make a pair that has less plies. It does cost a little bit less money. These, I believe, were about $140. Don't quote me on that. And you can find them in different sizes. So if you're going to go shopping for chaps, please take the time to make sure they fit you. They have different waist sizes and different lengths. And in my opinion, if you're going to buy chaps, make sure that you buy something that's at least 9-ply. Why buy something that's 6-ply? Second of all, we bought the wood cutting helmet. And this is a very multi-purpose tool. So it's a hard hat, a face screen that is flip-upable, and also earmuffs that are built into the helmet. This is a very good tool because we're going to be doing a lot of wood cutting for firewood. This means that we're going to be dropping quite a few trees, and I don't know about your experience, but for me, firewood rarely is on flat ground. So it's always cockeyed on the side of a hill, so that means that falling can be kind of sketchy. Usually when we're cutting firewood, we're up in the elevation, which means it can be a little breezy, which makes falling trees, again, a little more risky. If we could just fall trees on beautiful 72-degree sunny, balmy days, wouldn't that be great? And of course, having the built-in earmuffs is nice. That way you don't have to fiddle with ear plugs, because getting your earmuffs to fit over your helmet can be kind of challenging. The wood cutting screen, obvious benefit, keeps debris out of your face. That said, I went ahead and invested in a set of bug eyes, and these are a set of safety glasses that are very similar to regular safety glasses in how they fit, but they do not have a lens. They only have a screen cover. So the lens is very similar to the screen material that is on this face shield. Why is that important? Well, a couple of things in my experience. First of all, when you first start cutting in the morning, your glasses are usually cold, and therefore they tend to fog up quite a bit. So the temptation is not to wait, but rather to just take them off for a minute so you don't have to wait for them to stop fogging up. Well, that puts you in a particular safety hazard. The other thing is keeping debris out of your eyes specifically. So the face shield is nice, but when you're cross-cutting, a lot of the chainsaw or the sawdust is actually coming at you, because you're putting the saw in all kinds of different positions as you work the dogs through the log. So you get a lot of sawdust going a lot of different directions. It's a lot different than chainsaw milling, and it's a lot different sawdust. So with the bug eyes, you can keep that out of your eyeballs. So the face shield is nice to keep things from hitting your face, but it doesn't always keep even the finest dust out of your eyeballs. So we went ahead and invested in a pair of those. The whole setup here, probably a little less than $300. And for firewood cutting, this makes me feel more comfortable. So wrapping this video up, I want to start a discussion. So I'm hoping that in the comments below, we can kind of keep this conversation going And maybe we can point back to this video as kind of a rational way of looking at safety. Instead of dogmatically screaming that someone should buy or wear a particular piece of safety equipment, instead we should encourage people to work within their own limits and the limits of the tools that they're operating. And that doesn't mean that we should work with tools that we're comfortable working with. We should educate people and make sure that they fully understand the risk of operating that tool. Because there's not a tool in the world, including a blender, a coffee maker, a knife, it doesn't matter. They're all risky and dangerous. We need to understand the risks that we're taking. I know we all love our chainsaws. I know I do. I love working with wood. It's very rewarding. It's very relaxing. And so we need to make sure that we are being safe. And I know we have a burden on us as YouTubers to set a good example for those around us. So I'm hoping that this video can be a voice for that conversation. I look forward to hearing your comments and look forward to learning more from you about things that make you feel safe. And maybe I can learn a thing or two from your methods too. If you enjoyed this video, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll put a subscribe button over here by the chainsaws, and we'll see you in the next video.